Why you feel fake. Even when you're being real, you say what you actually think. You try to be honest. You stop pretending. And still, something feels off. Like even your real self sounds rehearsed. Like you're watching yourself from the outside, performing authenticity. So the question starts forming quietly in your mind. If this is me being real, why does it still feel fake? 2. Problem deep dive. It usually shows up in small moments. You're in a conversation, and halfway through speaking, you suddenly become aware of your own voice. You hear your tone, you notice your words, you start adjusting mid-sentence, and just like that, you're no longer just talking, you're monitoring. Later, you replay it. Did that sound natural? Was I trying too hard? Was that actually me? This doesn't just affect conversations, it follows you into decisions. You hesitate before expressing opinions, not because you don't have them, but because you don't trust if they're really yours. Even when you act differently, more open, more honest, more yourself, there's a quiet voice saying, "This isn't fully real either." Over time, this creates a strange identity loop. You don't feel like a clear person. You feel like layers of behavior. And the more you try to be yourself, the more artificial it starts to feel. So you pull back again. Not because you want to be fake, but because you don't know what real even feels like anymore. This pattern isn't random. It's not just insecurity. It's something deeper. A learned way your mind protects your identity. But to understand it, you have to look at something most people ignore. Not what you're saying, but how long you've been watching yourself say it. 3. Reframe. Here's the part most people get wrong. They think this feeling means something is broken, like they've lost their true self. But that's not what's happening. You're not fake. You're trained. At some point, your brain learned that being fully natural wasn't safe. Maybe it was subtle. You noticed certain reactions from people. Approval when you acted a certain way. Discomfort when you didn't. So your brain adapted. It built a version of you that could monitor yourself in real time, not to deceive people, but to stay accepted. Over time, that monitoring became automatic. So now, even when you try to be real, that system is still running in the background, and it creates a strange effect. You're being genuine, but you're also watching yourself be genuine. That's the tension you feel. Not fakeness, but dual awareness. 4. Psychological mechanism. To understand this, think of your mind as having 2 layers: the experiencing self, the part of you that just is, and the observing self, the part that watches, evaluates, and adjusts. In a healthy balance, these work together. But when self-monitoring becomes dominant, the observing self takes control. This is closely tied to something in psychology called self-consciousness, especially public self-awareness. Your brain starts treating you like an object being watched, even when no one's judging you. Neuroscience shows this involves increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for evaluation and control. At the same time, the default mode network, which is active during self-reflection, starts looping. So instead of just living the moment, you're analyzing it in real time. Here's the metaphor. It's like trying to dance while constantly watching yourself in a mirror. At first, the mirror helps you adjust, but after a while, you stop feeling the music because your attention isn't in the experience anymore. It's on the image. That's what's happening internally. You're not disconnected from yourself. You're over-connected to how you appear. And the more you try to fix it by being real, the more the observing system activates, because now it has a new job. Make sure this looks authentic, which is why authenticity starts feeling like a performance. But this pattern can shift, not by forcing yourself to be natural, but by changing how your attention works. 5. Practical framework. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about reducing the grip of the observing system, so your experiencing self has space again. Here's how that works. 1. How am I coming across? 2. What am I noticing? When you feel fake, your attention is turned inward, but in a critical way. You're evaluating. Instead, gently redirect your attention outward. What's the other person saying? What details are you noticing? Why it works. This reduces activity in self-monitoring circuits and re-engages sensory processing networks. Your brain can't deeply observe yourself and the environment at the same time. Real-life example. In a conversation, instead of adjusting your tone, focus on one detail, like the person's expression or words. Your speech naturally becomes more fluid. 2. Let your responses be slightly unfinished. When you over-monitor, you try to perfect everything you say. So experiment with leaving things imperfect, shorter sentences, less editing mid-thought. Why it works. Perfection increases prefrontal control, which strengthens the observing system. Imperfection reduces cognitive load and allows more spontaneous processing. Real-life example. Instead of explaining your opinion fully, say the first version that comes to mind, even if it's simple. 3. Notice the delay between feeling and expression. Often, the fake feeling comes from a delay. You feel something, then you process it, then you express a refined version. That gap creates artificiality. Why it works. The longer the delay, the more the observing system edits the response. Reducing the gap reconnects you to raw experience. Real-life example. If something makes you laugh, don't suppress it to react appropriately. Let the reaction happen closer to the moment. 4. Stop trying to confirm if you're being real. This one is subtle. Every time you ask, "Was that really me?" you activate the observing loop again. Why it works. Self-verification keeps the default mode network active, which sustains self-analysis. Letting the question go interrupts the loop. Real-life example. After a conversation, instead of replaying it, shift into a different activity. Walking, music, anything sensory. 5. Build familiarity with your unobserved self. Right now, your real self feels unfamiliar because it rarely exists without observation. So you need moments where you're not being watched, even by yourself. Why it works. When self-monitoring decreases, your brain rebuilds a baseline sense of identity through direct experience. Real-life example. Spend time alone doing something expressive, talking out loud, journaling, or moving, without evaluating it. 6. Integration. All of this comes down to one simple shift, from performing yourself to experiencing yourself. Think of your mind like a stage. Right now, there's a spotlight, and it's pointed at you. You're both the actor and the audience. That's exhausting. But you don't need to remove the spotlight completely. Just soften it. Let it drift outward. So you're not constantly watching yourself live. You're just living. And slowly, something changes. Your words feel less constructed. Your reactions feel less delayed. Your presence feels less divided. Not because you forced authenticity, but because you stopped interrupting it. 7. Quiet empowering. Close. You don't find your real self by analyzing it. You find it in the moments where you forget to look. At first, those moments will feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because you're used to being watched, even by your own mind. But if you stay there gently, without correcting, without adjusting, something settles. And what's left isn't perfect. It isn't polished. But it's not fake either. It's just you. And maybe that's why it feels strange at first. Because for a long time, you've been seeing yourself from the outside, and now you're finally starting to experience life from within.